that person, and whether it's Carter or Cheney or anybody else, whether that person has been briefed. And the reason you're asking that is because that would then reveal that there has to be some sort of documentation about the briefing. It's not, I just had this conversation with somebody at dinner and they can deny it. This would be a briefing that would be on the book somewhere, and you could go chase it with a FOIA request, right?
Yeah, and the briefing would be the official word.
Yes.
The briefing is the official answer, because there's also, like, for example, the Larson statement. It's just a statement they put out, but it's put out by a PR guy. You're looking for the briefing, which is not some PR thing put out to the press or given for whatever. It is the story. This is the summation of 15 intelligence agencies all putting their information together, and we're bringing it to the president or whoever. This is the briefing, the real story. This is going to end 65 years of whatever stories we've been told. This is the real story. So that was the idea behind the briefing. And so when I asked Cheney, I knew that Cheney had been involved. He was chief of staff for Gerald Ford. He'd been Secretary of Defense under Bush Sr., and now he was the vice president. And he had been rumored to be on the MJ-12, and there was all these different things. So I asked him, I said, Mr. Cheney, in all your jobs in government, have you ever been briefed on the subject of UFOs? And if so, when was it? Because that's, you want to know exactly when it was. And what were you told? And then they cut me off. I didn't hear the answer. They cut me off at that point.
You can hear that in the recording. You can hear that somebody hits the button literally the second you give them a break.
Yeah, and then I actually heard it from Charles Huffer, who was the guy the guy who asked Bush Sr. and Bush Jr. about UFOs. He wrote me an email, and he said, well, he told me what the answer was, and that was the first time I tried to get on the archives and listen to the show. But I didn't know until Huffer told me what Cheney had replied.
No
and that's
kidding.
What he said. If I had been briefed on that subject, it would probably be classified, and I wouldn't be talking about it. Which to me is a confirmation that there's something there that's classified. It's for real. He could have said, I don't know anything about it. It's a bunch of garbage, whatever.
I was never briefed.
Subject, it would probably be classified. And that's when we actually got lucky a second time with that in terms of, and this is another example how the UFO community really doesn't have any sort of ability to pressure, that they're sort of really worried about their own self-image, that we want to change the word of UFOs because we don't want people laughing at us and stuff.
Right.
And that was when the story of Wesley Clark was running for president, and he was leading at that point. He was leading the Democrats in 2004, and Wesley Clark was a guy who wanted to be an astronaut. He had very interested in outer space, and so he was in New Hampshire, and he was at the time leading the Democrats. And he's asked by Jay Buckley, who was an astronaut. He's asked the question, what's your vision of space? And he starts about space, and he's talking, and suddenly he gets into this rant about the fact that he believes we can go past the speed of light. And I've argued with physicists about it, and I believe we can. And I'm thinking, wow, this guy's a 4-star general. This is pretty weird. So I get an email from somebody related to the Avery, these intelligence type people, and all they said is, one of the birds told me that Clark has been briefed on crash flying saucers. So what I did is I went to as many state directors as I could in the United States, MUFON state directors, and watching Clark's schedule and saying, okay, he's going to be in New Hampshire today, he's going to be in Iowa tomorrow. And he was at open houses. Once he becomes president, you can't talk to him anymore. He's completely sheltered. You can't get to him. But when you're in New Hampshire and Iowa, they have these town halls, and you can ask them any question you want. So I went to different people, and I'd say about 5 or 6 top MUFON people, and I said, ask him. I've been told he knows about crash flying saucers. He's a 4-star general. He has a unified command, which is the thing that's supposed to, these 4-star general with a unified command is supposed to be briefed. That's what we've been told. So I said, the guy's been briefed. Ask him the question about being briefed. And on about 3 occasions, state directors of MUFON came back to me and said, I don't want to ask him that question. One actually was going to ask him the day before, pulled out and said, I don't want to embarrass him. And I said, well, if we don't ask the question, why would you expect the media to go and ask the question?
Yeah, sure.
We don't want to be, we had state directors, MUFON people who wouldn't ask the question because they didn't want to be embarrassed, to be the guy who stands up in a political townhouse and asks the UFO question. And this is this sort of thing that why we want to change it to, ABA, anything but alien terminology, because we want to look respectable. We're tired of people laughing at us. And you can even see John Alexander, who's this big, special forces guy. If you see him talk, he's upset about this too. He doesn't like people laughing at him. He's a big tough guy. When it comes to the criticism of UFOs, it really affects the guy. You can tell it affects
Interesting.
the guy. And so that's where this thing came. And I kept pushing people, and I thought, this is crazy. I mean, no wonder we're not getting anywhere. We deserve to be in the dark. And then finally, I don't know if you know the story, but David Rudiak, who's in California, a really good researcher, turned it down the first time. He was at Berkeley, and he didn't ask him the question. And then he happened to be in Reno, Nevada, about 2 days before the election took place, and he's campaigning for whoever had won the nomination. And he said, well, I'll go to the lecture. So he goes to the lecture, and he asks him the question about being briefed. And he starts talking about mathematics. Yeah, I know something, but we're having problems with the mathematics. He's asked about a briefing on UFOs, and he starts talking about, yes, I know something, but we have a problem with the mathematics. And Rudiak comes back again. He knows not to get thrown off, so you have been briefed. And he's got him going on this whole thing. And again, you have this situation where by asking the briefing question to somebody who we know has been briefed, you start getting these little pieces, and the mathematics things comes up all the time. Like Ben Rich talked about mathematics. When he was giving this famous lecture before he died, he talks about the mathematics. We found the solution to the equation. We've had problems. We found the solution to the mathematics of the equation, or whatever it was. And Dr. Eric Walker, who we chased, also talked about mathematics. He asked the question, how much do you know about mathematics? And so mathematics is part of this. It comes out. So the briefing question to me is extremely important, and it brings out this whole thing that we are really working with self-image in ufology. That we don't like to be laughed at. We want to be very respectable. And I think it comes down to Laura Johnstone, where you just say, I really don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
I'm dedicated to this whole thing, and that when we get that kind of dedication by a number of people who are willing to go out and get arrested in front of the White House, or cause a commotion that we really don't care what people think, then something's going to happen. But until then, I always say, for everything there is a season. And when we've done the homework, when we've done all the work, then disclosure will come. Not until. We can't expect and this goes to everybody who puts out petition. We think that because it's an important issue, that they should disclose it. There are a million issues that are important. The cure to cancer, all sorts of stuff.
Sure.
That's nothing to do with it. Because it's an important issue doesn't mean that they should disclose it. The only thing that gets disclosed is when the pressure's put on. That there are a lot of things that may be very important issues. But issues get moved by people who are dedicated to the cause, who push it through. And you can even see, like with these protesters in New York, or these Wall Street protesters, they didn't even know what they were protesting about, but they knew how to run a protest, and they got all this publicity. I live in Winnipeg, which is the coldest major city in the world. There's still 5 of them camped at the main park in the city here, and it can go like to 50 below here, and there's 5 of them. And I'm thinking, there's 5 people in tents in 50 below, and they don't even know what they're protesting about. And here we have the most important issue in the world, UFOs, and we have nobody protesting.
Yeah.
We're trying to be diplomatic about it. We're trying to be nice. We're trying not to embarrass ourselves and this sort of stuff. And really nothing's happening. And that's where, to me, all I'm interested in is getting this thing over with, to get the answer that I wanted back in 1975. So I don't care how it happens. I'm trying to figure, and that's where I came up with the fact that major political and social movements happen by getting massive pressure on the government, number one. And the second is that on a local level, that if you put pressure on a local candidate, he's got cover, and he can run with it. And so that is where I'm coming from. And maybe I'm not right. Maybe the petition will end up working, and I'll be wrong.
Well,
but everybody has to do what they have to do. Everybody does what they they think is right, and sooner or later something's going to work, as long as people are doing something.
This is the Time and Space Radio Show. We're going to get to the end here and wrap up this, what has been, I have to say, an amazing interview. You really just kept my attention riveted the entire time and told me a few things that I hadn't even thought of. The one that you just said a couple minutes ago, I personally know the Virginia State Director of MUFON. Her name is Susan Swiatek, and I'm going to go ask her about that. The next time I get a chance to talk to her, I'm going to ask her about what you were saying about, being one of these people and going out, and would she be willing to go out and corner one of these candidates or people and ask them the questions? Because I'll be real interested to see what kind of answer she gives me, I have to say. The other thing I want to throw in here real quick, if your son is not interested, I have room in my garage, so if you want to unload those filing cabinets, I'm happy to take them, believe me.
Okay. Send me your address.
I will do that. I will do that.
I'm interested in making sure, and I've asked lots of people that, like, where are your files going when you die, or like, this sort of stuff. People that I know that have a lot of interesting stuff, and a lot of the stuff is out there. Like I'm going to Arizona in February, and I found the Goldwater. People may not know there's over 300 pages of UFO files in Goldwater's files. Wow. So I'm going to go and photograph all the 300 plus pages in Goldwater's. And I'm going to do all the Stephen Schiff files. So there's a bunch of files that I run around, and it's amazing how much stuff is out there. And one of those things may have some letter that may give us the answer.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah, my wife will probably give me a tremendous amount of grief for, putting more junk in the garage as far as she's concerned. But I'm telling you, I'll make room. I'm happy to do that. Let me just ask you one last question here, and it's much more lighthearted than a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, but I have to ask it. You are now the third, I will say, prominent Canadian that we've had on the show. And so far we're 0 for 2 on this question, but I gotta, I'm a big hockey fan, living in Washington, D.C., big Capitals fan. And the producer of our show, Howard, also known as H-Town, is a diehard Capitals fan as well. We asked Stan Friedman if he was a hockey fan, and he said he didn't really seem to care about it at all. And then just a couple months back, we spoke to Paul Hellyer, who said when he was a younger man, he was kind of a Maple Leafs fan, and some of the people in his family are still big hockey fans, but he doesn't really follow it. Now you've got you got the Winnipeg Jets came back, after all these years. I'm wondering if you're a hockey fan and you follow that at all.
Yeah, I was actually they're getting hammered by Detroit. I think they've lost big to Detroit. They were a big winning streak. I was actually watching the game before you
no
called.
Kidding.
It's actually a sickness around here. It's like just absolutely crazy here for hockey. It's like the amount of money they're going to make just by selling jerseys and stuff like that is unbelievable here. It's just everyone's crazy about it, and they're doing really well. So big hockey fan, especially them coming back, because I was season ticket holder when they were here before, tried to get season tickets here. I don't know if you know the story that put up the season tickets online here, and in about 90 seconds, every season ticket was sold in 90 seconds. So
wow.
Try to get season tickets, we can get them, and so you feel lucky you can actually get somebody to sell you tickets here. So big, and we've beaten Washington a couple times. We beat Washington, you beat us once. So.
Right. Well, if you find yourself in Washington, I will personally take you to a game, especially if they're playing Winnipeg. And
there you go. That's I'll give you my files and you take me a hockey game.
There you go. That sounds like a deal. I like it. All right, Grant, thank you so much for your time. It's been a great interview. I'm sure I will reach out for you again, as some of these things pop, and just thanks for your time, and I hope to cross paths with you sometime to at least shake your hand.
Beautiful. I appreciate your interest.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks very much. Talk to you soon. Okay. Bye. That is amazing. Time and Space Radio Show. I'm your host, Mike Smith. I'm not sure this is still recording, but if it is, that was a fascinating interview with Grant Cameron. I can't wait to post-produce that and cut that up and get it online. So, looking forward to doing that. We will move on to another interview in the next couple of days here, which may still be part of this same episode. We plan to talk to Stephen Bassett and Rich Dolan. So stay tuned for those, and visit timeandspace.us and show us some more love and support, people. Thanks.